Hello and good morning. It's 6:35 Eastern Standard Time here, and this is my first time getting my feet wet into YouTubing my thoughts and the concerns of people that have spoken to me, wrote to me, and today I'm going to speak on this dilemma about Kavannaugh and how it relates to the whole global plot and the coup d'etat that is being attempted in the Trump administration. Excuse me. Let me start by saying that there's a document, and that document, some say, oh, that was debunked and that was propaganda and so forth. Well, yes, of course it was debunked, but it was debunked by such loose organizations as Snopes and leftist research analysts and so forth. People with an agenda. But in this document, you will find that the entire document is basically a blueprint for the end game. Now, you say, well, what do you mean, the end game? The end game is where the globalists and the illuminists of Europe want this country, the position they want us in, okay? Because only by achieving that position with us can they overtake us. And then the entire world will fall into line under our domination by them, and they will achieve globalism, one world order, the globalist plot. Okay? Now, that having been said, in this document it basically tells us, and now this is in the 1700s, late 1700s, okay? Not too long after the Declaration of Independence was signed. This democratic fury has been going on for some time. And if you look at the timeline and how closely they relate and occurred with each other, you'll start to see a pattern. But in this document, it tells us how they will manipulate the food supply, and even at that time saying, we will lead them to believe that their vote counts when it really doesn't. Now think about this. Don't poo-poo it and don't contradict it, because if you look deep inside of you, you know that's true. But from the very origin of an election process, they pick who we vote on. Okay, do you understand what I'm saying? People that fit into the agenda, which is one reason that they were doing all they could to ensure that Trump lost, but he didn't. Now, you say, well, what's that got to do with this book? Well, you have to understand that it lays out exactly how you've been watching our country evolve ever since this document was written, ever since the inception of the country. Remember, Illuminist influence was in the country 2 months before we signed the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution both. Okay, do you understand what I'm saying now? They were influencing government leadership at that time. All right? And make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about it, my friend. This has been a plot that's been ongoing since they came to this country to fight against the constitutional signing. People, be they Illuminists or Jesuit influence out of the Catholic Church, they came here. And by the way, after people from England arrived in the United States, as we know it now, it was deemed lawful, and this is how serious they were against the oppression of the church, which, by the way, was not just a religious thing. The Vatican also is a state. Do you understand? So they had both political and religio power under their thumb. Therefore, the people were under their thumb, because if they didn't like something they did religiously, they could prosecute them by the state, and vice versa. Okay? So, these people that came from England to disrupt this process became the Democratic Party. So if you think the Democrats have always, not always, but not always been evil, you're wrong. But what has occurred is that they have kept it under wraps all this time. Now it is getting to a point, which is getting more to my point. Now it is at a point, which is what they feared by Trump getting in, is that the Illuminist plot, the Illuminist conspiracy to overthrow the United States government and bring us to our knees is being interrupted and destroyed and exposed. This is what they feared when Trump got in, because they couldn't buy him, and they couldn't turn the American people off from what the man represented. And what he represented was true American dyed-in-the-wool values, things the American people cared about. And you know what? He's kept his word on the majority. Not that he won't keep his word on the rest of it, but it may take a little more time to do it. And here's the problem. He doesn't kowtow to the Illuminists. He doesn't kowtow to the Vatican. He doesn't kowtow to anybody. He will get along with anybody when he has to. But it doesn't mean he agrees with them. And he's exhibited this several times, from Putin to China to North Korea. He will do his best to be cordial, but it doesn't mean that he's bending down and kissing the butt. That was Obama's technique. Sit back, do nothing, kiss a lot of ass, and hope for the best. Now, what they're looking at is the destruction of an endgame blueprint that has been in motion for over 200 years. And each day they were getting closer and closer. Obama was supposed to finish the job. He couldn't do it. That's why they wanted Hillary in there. They knew she was crazy enough to do it in broad daylight in front of everybody and say, kiss my butt, I don't care what you think, I'm in control now. That's why American people did not want Hillary in there. We dodged a bullet, my friend. We dodged a bullet when it came down to Hillary not getting in. So make no mistake about this. They hate Trump because he disrupted everybody's money flow, everybody's control mechanism, and the end game plot of the European aristocracy. Do you understand? And this is exactly what the protocols of the wise men of Zion was talking about. That very plot. That very plot that Mr. Trump has disrupted, destroyed, and exposed. Now he's going for the jugular vein. How's he doing that? Mr. Trump walked into a problem, but it was a good problem as far as he could see. That problem was a vacancy left by a Supreme Court justice. Now, that Supreme Court justice, many believe, was murdered. Convenient timing. Convenient timing, my friend. It unbalanced even further the balance between Democratic and Republican power on the Supreme Court. The left, the Democrats, were hoping to fill that via Hillary Clinton with a radical Democratic dare I say, crooked Supreme Court justice. Now, what they fear now in Kavannaugh getting in is this. Trump understands the importance and the binding power of the Constitution. The man he chose, Mr. Kavannaugh, is such a man to take Justice Scalia's place. Except he's even more direct, more constitutionally based than even Scalia was. And Scalia was a Roman Catholic, but Scalia did not follow the plan the Catholics wanted him to follow, which was to vote basically all left. Well, he didn't do that. He stuck to his moral guns, and he did the right thing when he voted for things according to his conscience. Now, you have Kavanagh coming in. Kavanagh, strictly a constitutionalist, strictly, and does not like corruption at all. They're worried about Roe versus Wade. That's way on down the road. He could care less. Right now, Trump wants him in there for one reason, I believe. Can't honestly say I know this, but 2 and 2 makes 4, always has. And if you ask me, Trump wants Kavanagh in there for the express purpose of fulfilling the biggest promise that he made in his campaign: drain the swamp, which is basically to say, lock up the deep state. And if he goes all the way to the root of the problem when it comes to the deep state, you'll be lucky to see 30% of the politicians in Washington right now still be there and not in prison. And this is another reason why Obama has hit the campaign trail for other people, because he knows that if Kavanagh gets in there and Trump gets fed up enough with him, he'll go to prison. He'll be under the prison. Him, all the cohorts he had in Washington, Valerie Jarrett, Lynch, all of them, will be sitting in the federal penitentiary for treason, sedition, and aiding and abetting a criminal. You understand now? That's why they're scared. The deep state is afraid they will be outed. Then the Democratic Party will lose all credibility with the American people. They will virtually not exist. And the two-party system was designed for just that, to keep a division in the American people. This will be a bringing together of proper methodology, which is two parties are not needed. They're not needed. Vote for a man, not a party. Vote on their credentials. Vote on their character, not on what the party tells you, because they'll both lie to you and make things up as to why you should vote for them. Decide for yourself. Quit letting other people decide for you. Mr. Trump, I look at you now and I say this. Drain that swamp, sir. Lock up the deep state. Get these people in prison that should have been put in prison as far back as Obama's presidency. Go after them. Put them in prison. Make them realize the American people and God are in control of this country. It's time, Mr. President. I appreciate everything you've done, and you have done a bang-up job. Bang-up job. But it's time. It's now time. Lock them up. Treason against this nation will not be tolerated by the American people. It's time. It's time for them to pay the price. They wanted the song. That's time to pay the fiddler. You have a good day.